Welcome to Ghost Education 101, where curiosity meets experience and the doors to the entire paranormal landscape are finally open. Hosted by Dr. Heather Lee and Dr. Tiffany Frazier, this series is built for everyone who wants to understand the unexplained the right way. Whether you're just stepping into the unknown or you've been investigating for years, this is the place where you can sharpen your approach, deepen your understanding, and cut through the misconceptions that have overrun this field for far too long. Each episode walks you through the full spectrum of paranormal activity. Classic hauntings, intelligent spirits, cryptids, elemental beings, poltergeist phenomena, and the modern challenges investigators face today. We break it all down. The science, the method, and the mystery, without dumbing it down and without drifting into theatrics. Grounded in research, history, and real-world investigation, Ghost Education 101 is your classroom, your laboratory, and your gateway into the most compelling unexplained experiences on record. Learn, question, discover. Welcome to Ghost Education 101. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Heather Lee and Dr. Tiffany Frazier.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Tiffany, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Every day is getting a little bit better, so that's all I can ask for. And in 3 weeks, hopefully I'll have back to my room, because right now my room is being used for moving, and in 3 weeks we move. So hopefully I'll have something besides blinds behind me for you guys.
Are you moving to the new house? Is it done?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, on the 20th we move in.
That is amazing.
Congratulations
on that.
All done. Thank you. And tonight's show, something we haven't done on Ghost Ed before. It's going to be interesting. We do have a panel discussion. Two amazing guests. Brad Bradley's been on the show several times from CPRI, and first-time guest Brian Bowden is joining us. So we're going to be discussing UFOs, UAPs, and alien encounters. If anyone has any questions or experiences, feel free to share in the chat, and we'll bring them up during the show. Anything you want to mention before we get started and bring our guests on board? And I'm sorry, cats in the background making noise.
My cats go. They're already running around. So no, I totally get it. No, I'm really excited about this discussion. I was telling you earlier today, I don't follow UFO and UAP information as much as I probably should. So I'm really interested to see what our guests have to offer to tonight's panel. So it'll be fun.
Yep, we'll bring them on. Welcome, Brad, and welcome, Brian. How are you guys doing tonight?
Very good.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Good. And before we get started, I know, Brad, you've been on the show before, but can you just remind our guests, our followers, exactly who you are and what experience you bring to the table for tonight's show?
Well, I'm the research director for the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. I'm a former chemist where I worked for Dow Chemical Corporation for several years, a long time ago, because I am old. And we're an actual we're a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to finding out what people think they see and hear. That's pretty much it, in all the different realms of anomalous phenomena, and including UAPs and cryptids and the paranormal side of things. And we operate like a university. We have a board of directors. We actually have some interns and things like that now too. So we whenever we have our meetings, it's like a university lab meeting. So it's pretty interesting. Well, we have fun too on occasion. I am not the fun police, I promise. Anyway.
Yeah, I've known many people from your organization for years.
My turn.
And you guys are doing an amazing job.
My name is Brian Bowden, sometimes known as Sir Brian. I am a Knights Templar in real life. I started off studying astronomy, physics, and engineering, with toying with being an astrophysicist. And then I said, nope, I'm going to go into business. So I've worked for the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and a lot of broker dealers. But I've been studying, researching the topic of high strangeness, phenomenon, UFOs, whatever you want to call it. For years, I am in the field constantly. I prefer dealing with cryptids and extraterrestrial-based UFO stuff for all over the country. And now I do my own show Wednesdays and Thursdays. And I mean, Wednesdays and Monday's an hour show where I teach remote viewing. I'm a remote viewer. I don't normally like to say it, but I do have a gifts and abilities, a psychic medium, whatever you want to call it. But I primarily do a lot of remote viewing, and I use that on all investigations. I have conducted several active intelligent encounters, otherwise known as close encounters of the fifth kind, where they've always brought in craft, big time craft. And as a researcher and investigator, when you bring in a craft, you're even fully, thin to it, because it's not a given. But I'm glad to see that with Bradley, especially with the chemistry background, which is really important, actually. You guys are bringing a lot more validity to all the subject matter than some of the other people out there that are just, I don't know. I call them like 30-second YouTube warriors. Everybody's got an opinion, but most people don't go out and do the research and investigate it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. So I think I told Brad this the last time he was on the show. Most people don't want to.
I don't know if I froze. Did I freeze?
Nope. You're not frozen. A lot of people don't want to take the time that is required to commit to doing proper research. And that is just as important as going out there, coming up with a theory, putting the theory to the test.
Yep.
So I think he's having some issues on his end, because I know he's using the app and he is traveling right now. So
yeah, I know when I used the app a couple of weeks ago to tune into the show, I was having issues, and the app's not the best thing in the world.
No.
Sorry.
Well, real quick before we get things started, the one biggest question I know a lot of people have is, what is the difference between UFO versus UAP? Because there has been that transformation to where UAP is being used more often now than the other one. What do you guys?
Well,
Brad, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll grab onto that one while Brian's working on his technical issues. If you think about it, UAP and it's unidentified, like aerial phenomenon, or however you want to, whatever you want to put in there. It depends on which part of the public you're talking to. UFO, that's old school, and it also has a lot of bad juju around it.
Sorry, I'm muting myself.
There's a lot of bad juju around using the term UFO as well, unidentified flying object. And so UAP, that came, the military has been started using UAP, and other entities started using UAP. And so I think that what you're seeing is that that's the latest, coolest thing to use. It does not have the bad juju around it.
Right.
And so I think that's why a lot of people are using it. Yeah. But, it's more, it actually identifies more with the phenomenon too, versus
that is true.
It might not be necessarily a flying object. It could just be an anomaly in the sky.
Exactly.
That might not be a craft for that matter. It could be almost anything. So, I think UAP is a much better description.
And I think a lot of people.
I don't know if my audio or video is working.
We can hear you.
Can you guys hear me at all?
We can hear you.
I'm getting a nod, but I don't hear anybody. But sorry, Brad. Yeah, I tend to differ on that. I think UAP is a narrative more so than the actual subject matter, because when you're talking about UFOs and also USOs, unidentified submersible objects, they're two distinct things there. And when the governments got involved, the first thing they did was change the definition. And that is part of their narrative to streamline people to a direction. And I don't personally go along with it. and I'm not going to go along with it. I call them UFOs or USOs, and I guess the bad juju is in the past people, flying saucers and a little bit of the, everybody thought they were crazy back then, whoever saw them, but that's not necessarily the case. There are very credible people, including Dr. Hynek, who couldn't disprove them, the UFOs and the USOs. So that's where I think we differ on the terminology, but we're still talking about similar objects, be they Earth-based, interdimensional, stellar, or what have you.
Yeah, I got to say, yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you, Brian, but the bad juju, what I was talking about is where, people, like you said, people thought that people were crazy when they talked about it. And that's the bad juju I'm talking about. It gave it a bad reputation.
I did, but I think that was purposely done for people to discredit people in general. One of the big draws of people on the disclosure movement are the ones that were UFO people, and a lot of them still are, is to have their "I told you so" moment. But I've stated this numerous times. This full disclosure took place in 1977 with the release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Everything was there, including Dr. Hynek, who did not break his non-disclosure agreement or governmental oaths. He just appeared in a film. And I could appreciate people wanting that "I told you so" moment, so that, to say to the people that thought they were crazy, but I don't think everybody's crazy that uses the term UFOs. And when government gets involved in stuff, I don't think we actually have what we really want, which is a disclosure. I think we have a narrative. So that's where I just differ. But as long as, we're all in the same goal, we're trying to prove stuff and get the correct information out there. So I think that's the best part of the whole thing.
Right. And I think an important thing that a lot of people are wondering is, are we even asking the right question? Right. So when we hear UFO or UAP, whatever term you choose to use, I think so many people just automatically think, okay, alien. But are we actually taking a step back and asking the right question? What are we experiencing, seeing? And if they truly are craft, how are they operating? Where are they coming from? And is there a way for society to kind of start thinking down that path and start trying to analyze this more deeply and figure out what exactly is going on? Because we have recorded history that go back thousands of years of people seeing stuff in the sky. This is not something that's new, right? So obviously people have been seeing things for a very, very long time. Is there a way that our society can take what steps can society take? Can scientists take to try and figure out what is going on? What are these things? Instead of going to Washington, D.C., getting together in a room, having arguments and, not getting anywhere. People are experiencing something. And it's something that we talk about when we talk about spirits as well. It does no good to discount somebody or say they're crazy or, just like shove it under the rug, because obviously people are experiencing something, and by ignoring it, it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. So how do we actually study this phenomena and figure out what's going on?
I did a prediction show with a bunch of people prior to 2026, and I remote viewed 2026. It's all online if you want to see it. But I did predict that the extraterrestrials themselves, be they extraterrestrial, interdimensionals, light beings. There's a variety. There's over 450 types of beings we're talking about. They're going to be the ones that truly disclose that they're here. The government will never disclose it because it is 100% an absolute national security concern. And we have reverse engineered crafts for decades. We have craft right now in the sky that people are saying is a UFO, but it's just a reverse engineered technology that we've acquired. And multitude of scientists, compartmentalized, have been working on this technology as well as private sector. I don't think you're going to get these people to come forward with this information. The only way it will happen where the public, we the people, or the public, and when I say we the people, I'm not specifically targeting the United States, I'm talking about the people of the world. The only way they're going to be able to really do the research is if these craft literally come down and say, we're here, and there's no way to hide it. Otherwise, everything is, you're not getting the research. It's all going to be hearsay and hypothesis, kind of like what we're getting from, with the exception of the actual pilots that have flown against some of these craft. Even Garush's testimony is hearsay. And, you know, you have another gentleman in there, Lou Elizondo, who I appreciate his service and what he does for the government, but he is a deceptive agent. So how that man does not have, you know, still has a security clearance tells me, because I know a lot of people that work in the government, that maybe he's still working there. So I can't believe anything that's coming from the government at this point. The only thing I can believe is independent people that have either been part of the program and expelled, kind of like a Bob Lazar type, or, you know, your own research, like what Bradley's doing with his group, where they may have acquired some people that are very knowledgeable of the subject, former whatever in the government, and they're giving them full-fledged information on that perspective. I don't know what Brad's take would be on that, but I'll be quiet now.
Well, I mean, you know, the way we look at it, you know, it's all anomalous phenomena. We all have theories that we might work towards, but the theories have to be defensible. The theories have to we have to have the ability to conduct the experiments, you know, generate the hypothesis, conduct the experiment, that kind of stuff. So that's essentially what we're doing. And excuse me. And you know, if we treat everything as just anomalous phenomena, we don't put a label on it, it's anomalous. All right. Then we collect the data, and the data never lies. The interpretation of the data could get a little tricky, but the data itself never lies. So we treat it as if it's all just anomalous phenomena, and then we're trying to figure out what caused that anomalous phenomena. If it goes down the route that it's a UAP or UFO or USO or alien or interdimensional, whatever it is, that's the route we're going to get. You know, if it goes down the route that it's a spiritual thing, we're going to go that way. You know, we're just going to follow the data wherever it's going to take us. Mm-hmm. And that right there provides the opportunity to eliminate, you know, we're trying to eliminate any bias at all. Because I have a belief structure. Everybody in our organization has a belief structure. And we don't want that to interfere with what we're trying to do. So, you know, as I've told, you know, Tiffany and Heather, I've told you guys a million times, you know, we got to take that belief structure and put it back here. And that belief structure, I'm not talking about necessarily spiritual belief, but, you know, belief in aliens, belief in interdimensional beings, what have you. We have to set it back here. So we're essentially just conducting cold experiments, trying to figure out what caused this particular piece of anomalous phenomena that was witnessed or collected on camera or what have you. You know, it could even be a weird sensor reading. We got to figure out what caused that, you know? And right. So that's the route that we're taking. And we actually in other realms of our organization, where there's a little bit of collaborating going on with other academic institutions. So, the academia people, believe it or not, are not necessarily on the side of the government, but especially right now. But
Right.
because their funding's getting cut. Oops, did I say that? But
Well,
yeah,
it's
but they're actually conducting a lot of research, not just through witness testimony and that kind of thing, but they're looking at hard data. We've been collecting data, around looking at ghost type reports for a long time. And it turns out that some of the people that we know in the MUFON community and in the BFRO community have been seeing some of the same kind of data that we're seeing when we're looking for ghosts, when they have an event happen around them. And we're like, well, wait a minute. If that's the case, then maybe we, in treating this all as just an anomalous phenomena, then maybe we might actually be able to take a leap forward, and cross the stream, so to speak, because a lot of times those organizations don't talk to each other. Right. And so we're trying to do now is we're trying to bridge that divide, and we want to be able to show that there's some kind of causation around, when everything goes quiet all of a sudden, and then a UFO appears, or if you feel the hair raising on the back of your neck or your arms, and a UFO appears. And the same thing happens when you're in a supposed haunted location. The same kind of thing happens. And then if you're out looking if you're out squatching, what we say in West Virginia, and if you were out doing that, same kind of thing happens. Everything, all the insects, everything goes silent, and then that incident happens where you see something or you hear something that's related to a cryptid that may be out there. So all this stuff is starting to cross over and bleed onto other things, and a lot of that is occurring because we're just treating it all as not one thing, but as anomalous phenomena. We don't put any labels on it. It's anomalous. It's something that shouldn't happen, something that doesn't normally happen, and we need to figure out what that is. So now I'm going to get off my soapbox.
No, I like your soapbox, but I've discovered long time ago that there is a common thread through all of it. And even though the ghost people do not like to play nice with the UFO people, and they don't play nice with the cryptid people, and then they don't play nice with the high strangeness people. Everybody's dying on their hill. I've always been universal. So there is a common thread through it all, and it's sound, frequency, vibration, resonance. And I mean, it's very reminiscent to what Tesla said, 369. If you understand 369, you understand the universe. And that deals with 369 it's a hertz, it's a signal. And it can be written 369, 936, and vice versa. People in science are now tuning into the fact that sound, frequency, resonance, and vibration play a crucial role in everything, including the ability to destroy cancer cells by tuning into their exact frequency. Now, if you can manipulate sound, frequency, resonance, and vibration, then you're allowed, you technically can manipulate an electromagnetic field, which means you can manipulate humans, you can manipulate Wi-Fi, you can manipulate everything, because everything's electromagnetic. I originally was a flesh and blood person on the Bigfoot side of things. I said, Gigantopithecus, the whole nine, until I had an encounter in 2015, and that creature went from where I was to another 2 miles down at the other end of a lake in an instant. And since I studied physics in the beginning of string theory and quantum, the only way you can go from point A to point B is if you can open up a portal and come out where you want. And I thoroughly believe these creatures can be flesh and blood and can go interdimensional and change the different types of makeup of their their atomic structure. Very reminiscent of, like, I always use the octopus as an example. It physically can change its shape and structure to look like almost anything, and then add the texture onto it. It's a totally different ball game, and it explains on the science side for Brad's team. Most people don't realize this, but we learned this in science class, that in order to convert from one form of energy to another, you have to expend a ton of energy in the process. And what is the easiest way to grab energy? Well, that's wirelessly. It's not only in the Earth's atmosphere, but it's in all your batteries and your phones and all this electronics. And you can also, if this creature has the ability to play around with those fields and drain them, that would explain the blob squatches you're seeing, as well as the energy drain. And then on top of it, when you see these creatures, you see these orbs around these locations, or these sparks of light. It's the event horizon from going from one shape into another. And I've been trying to champion that for a while now. The problem we have, and Brad has, you guys have the same problem, is we're working off a hypothesis. None of us have a physical cryptid that I'm aware of in our possession, or an extraterrestrial, or a craft, or any of this stuff. So we can only make assumptions based on scientific data that has been put forth for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I gotta say that we're not even looking at, what at an alien or a cryptid or what have you. We just, there's this, we need to, like, if somebody says they saw something, we're going to try to figure out what they saw. And, if it happens to be a flesh and blood kind of thing, then that's great. If it's not, if it's like, it could be, could be just you're seeing into another time, maybe, or you're seeing, you're seeing into another dimension at some point through, you call them portals, but we're finding evidence of the possibility. There's data we're seeing that kind of is indicative of what could be an Einstein-Rosen bridge formation. And
I agree with that, but it's the simpler term would be a portal. It gets a little bit more complex, but when you're dealing with people that did not study all this stuff, you kind of have to put it into a little bit of a more understandable term for some of the other people. But I agree with you.
And yeah, the whole thing around that is that the formation of such a thing would explain like if one were to appear, like the ones that we're talking about are the ones that are predicted by Einstein and Rosen. They're micro wormholes, Einstein and Rosen bridges. And the things though, but the problem is that they still shift gravity considerably. And if they do that, then that's why people feel like they're being touched. That might, and also there's EMPs involved with these things when they form. There's spikes and ionizing radiation, these things, and we're picking up all this, whenever we're looking for the quote ghosts. And then, and the funny thing is that we were at a battlefield here in Virginia trying to figure out why people think they see Confederate soldiers and stuff around this battlefield. And we actually captured something on a thermal imager in the sky. And we were like, hey, what is that? And it gave off a lot of heat. It showed lensing around it. It's like a dot up in the sky. And it's between the clouds and the camera, and it's above the ridge line. So it's in the sky, and we can't figure out what it is. It's on the thermal imager, and like I said, it shows the lensing that you would expect due to the gravitational fluctuation that happens with one of those things. And it really floored us. We were really surprised. And because we were also at the same time seeing forms that were dark or cold down along the creek line where they see these Confederate soldiers. And so we're seeing all this at the same time. And I think that one of the things that we're trying to determine now with all that is we're trying to determine if it's two separate causes or if it's the same cause and it's just two different manifestations. It's like that's what we're looking at right now. And we don't know what that thing was in the sky. I don't know if you guys allow for screen sharing on here, but I can show you a picture of what that looks like.
Yeah. Yep. We'd love to see it.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can do that.
While you're picking up the picture, I've literally filmed personally when my daughters were doing softball practice in the Bronx, a UFO that I originally thought was a drone, but I filmed this for 5 solid minutes. I've went over every frame of the video, and this thing morphs into multiple shapes. And at one point in time when you're watching it, first of all, it does have a field around the object constantly. You can visually see it. So that would be picked up 100% on the thermal, like Brad has been put out there. But at one point in time, what looks like a fly or a bug is not a fly or a bug. It is literally a larger ship that appears and disappears within a split second. And when I shoot on my, I was using a phone. I got to be honest. I don't think it's 60 frames per minute back then, but that is still quick for this larger craft to come through. And it literally looked like it had a bay that you can park that other craft into. And it came in and came out. The problem we have here is, unless we're going to wire everybody for testing, we're relying on personal experience, or what they say, people say. And I don't discredit that people believe what they saw, but some people bring better evidence with them. They may have camera, they may have audio. And it's very, very difficult. I don't know if Brad's had this problem. It is extremely difficult to recreate the same experience or even something similar out in public or in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Brad, you're muted.
Apologies, I'm sharing and totally missed that. I only have one screen, so.
Okay.
But one of the things that we're looking at, we're looking at the hard data versus the soft data, the interviews and the reports and things. We try to look at, what do our sensors pick up? Like this thermal imager. Can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
This thermal imager, this is at the battlefield. These are boulders that are partway down the side of the hill. This is the ridge line. Everything above this is sky. You can see the purple area here are clouds. They're at about 10,000 feet. And this right here are the dark spots. These were moving around. It's a little gully right here before the creek is right here.
Okay.
And this is like a little dip in the field. And those things, little black, things here dark things here were moving up and down through here.
Wow.
The whole time that this was occurring.
Wow. That's white hot.
Yeah. And we can't figure, you can see the lensing around it.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot figure out for the life of us what that was. And the funny thing is at the same time that this was all going on, we were getting a series of EMPs that were traveling around the battlefield site because we had equipment all over here, all behind us, all, inside of a house, which was sitting off to the right. We had all kinds of equipment along this ridge line here, and we were seeing spikes in ionizing radiation, and then EMPs happening. It was like a moving target. It moved, and then it came up through here and went through the house, and then went to a cemetery behind us. And then we also had some seismic activity that followed it.
Oh.
Which was real interesting. So we have all this stuff happening all at once while this thing's in the sky. And we still don't know what this was. We needed a second camera so we could get a better idea of how far away it was, because this may be close to the camera lens. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But one thing we did do is we had some night vision gear, and we looked up in the sky and looked around the camera and everything to see if we could see something. And this stays here for like 10 minutes. Just sits.
So it's not a bug. It's not a bug. No. It's not a bat.
No. And and then what we found out also is that, with that night vision gear, and also with our own binoculars and everything else, because you can see what time it was. It was like 10:20. We were, we couldn't see anything. There was nothing up there. We checked with NOAA. There was no weather balloon up in the sky. There was nothing there. We checked with the FAA. There was no aircraft there. You could see the aircraft flying around too. And the thermal imager could not see any of the aircraft. There were aircraft all around here. And you can't see them on this at all. And this is definitely not one of them. Mm-hmm. And then we also checked with the space weather folks, and they indicated that there was no like supernova or anything like that in the sky. They could have shown up like this. And so this is truly anomalous. We have no idea what this is. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. And now we're devising experiments to try to figure out what this was. Mm-hmm. And we actually run thermal imaging cameras every time we do an outside location like this, every time now. Just so multiple cameras trying to see if we could see this again. And we have yet to see it. So... when you're doing the experimentation, do you use any type of RF signal monitoring or recording? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. We actually have some really nice magnetometers that can determine, it's like electric field, electromagnetic field, geomagnetic field, radio frequency levels, the radio frequency density. That kind of stuff, and we can actually figure that stuff out. Excuse me. And the cool thing about it is that we can, with those magnetometers, we're actually able to, if we're actually able to say, when I say electromagnetic pulse, it's truly what it is, because it bleeds over all of the categories I just rattled off all at once, right. And it's Gauss level. And not milligauss. This is Gauss level, like 1,000 times. And so we see those, and they travel around. It's like a moving point source for all this stuff. The funny thing is that wherever this electromagnetic pulse happens, the Geiger counter that's there reading radiation will go to 0 and then come back again in radiation levels, and then show a spike in ionizing radiation. We're not sure if that's an effect of the EMP itself or if that's truly radiation. If it's truly radiation, I don't want to be anywhere near that.
I know what you're talking about.
But it's and if you look at it too, the very stuff that we're seeing. If you watch Skinwalker Ranch, that's the exact same stuff that they're seeing.
Yeah.
And, and we're like, hey, wait a minute. We're seeing this too. And so now we're starting to go down the road of trying to get more magnetometers so we can, try to get a better feel of where these things happen, more Geiger counters. And these things are about $100 a pop. They're not that expensive, believe it or not. The magnetometer is the most expensive thing. That's like $300 or $400, but it is. And it's each. But we get donations, various corporate donations for our stuff. So we're able to buy a few of these at a time. And we just bought 4 more thermal cameras for the network video recorder that we have. So. Now we're going to go down the road of trying to figure out more about this moving thing and seeing if that thing in the sky, if it was an object or if it was an Einstein-Rosen bridge or something in between.
Right. And I wish you the best of research and luck on your quest. Do you also monitor coronal mass ejections,
Hmm.
solar winds, and all that for the specific area and time,
Yep.
location? Now, what I loved about the photo is it's static. That looked like it was static. You said, if I'm correct, you said that
Yes.
object was static. That's always unusual. And for that long a period of time, that's even more unusual. But we're talking about if there's movement of, if there's electromagnetic movement that keeps moving around, like you were saying, we don't know. And whatever that object is, if it's not of this earth, if it's interdimensional, extraterrestrial, whatever, they may have technology in there, and they may be scanning certain areas for certain readings, and we may, Brad, you may be picking up some of that scan, and we have not yet got up to that technology level where we know it. I was talking to a bunch of people, one of which is Ron Moorhead, a friend of mine, and I literally predicted that one day we will have what I call a quantum filter, and you will start throwing your quantum filter on old video and old photos and what have you, and it will be as a such to kind of reveal what you weren't seeing at your eyesight level, that spectrum. It'll reveal everything else in the spectrum. And we do have some technology, but case in point, the U.S. military, when they started using night vision, and they tweaked those night vision glasses, they went full night vision and they were testing them. Soldiers were seeing things other than what they were supposed to. And there was report after report after report of some people calling them monsters, some people calling other humans, some weird things that they were seeing. It was such good technology that when the military had this and the reports came in, which are now pretty much classified, leak comes out, they had to dumb down that machine because they had to filter out the stuff that they didn't want humans to see. So maybe, and it's an experimental idea, Brad. Maybe playing around with some of the thermal or night vision and maybe juicing it a little bit, you may start revealing things that are now, what is that? Why is it there? And how would you, in the research, how can you explain to somebody that if we're in, let's say Gettysburg, I'm just going to take Gettysburg battlefield that was just there. And if you have the technology to fine tune your visual wave spectrum and bring things that are not of the visual sight of humans into some form of sight using a third product that will kind of converts it, how are you going to explain that if you start seeing ghosts and people in uniforms? Like, is it just a phenomenon, or how would you go about explaining that? Because I think some people are fine-tuned into other spectrums. And I don't discredit their personal experiences just because you're trying to maintain a level ground for science or a neutral type of scientific playground. Do you ever consider other people's, like, how fine-tuned they are? Remote viewers, psychic mediums, people that don't claim to be remote viewers, psychic mediums, but they're seeing people, like dead people, or Grandpa Joe's there, and they're like, where?
Well, I mean, for us, I'm going to say that we don't, as part of the experimental design, we don't have anything like that in the experimental design. We're looking at hard sensor data, and we're trying to figure out stuff based on the hard sensor data, because that's kind of the direction we're going. And the trying to preface this by saying, this is definitely this is not, it doesn't do anybody any good in what we're doing. We're trying to figure out what is causing, if we can find a mechanism for it, because we're actually closer than a lot of people think to finding the mechanism. And if we can find the mechanism, then we can go down the road of what is this and why is this? And right now we're not to that point yet. We have to be able, just like in any scientific endeavor, we have to be able to gather our data and let the data point us in the direction it needs to go. And then we might be able to devise a mechanism. And if we can hypothesize that a mechanism, then we can conduct an experiment to see if we can make that mechanism happen. And
100% agree with you with that. But who determines the hard data? And what is your determination of hard data? Because I've studied in the science zone. I've like the strict, but life, nature is not, A, B, C, D, E, hard data. Nature is a lot more complex, and more people don't put other variables to the data set because it doesn't fit what their idea of hard data is. And again, I go back to, let me tell you something. When I started doing what I do, I questioned every bit of it because I was trained scientifically. This can't be happening, but it is happening. And I've proved it. And I've proved it to myself more so than anything else. Can I quantify it? Not yet. Because we are not scientifically up to the point, publicly, I would say, where we would have the tools we would need to do the quantification of certain things. But this is why when we talk about data sets, my only problem is, and I wish you the greatest amount of success, I'm not kidding whatsoever, but I cannot dismiss things that don't make sense to me because at the time, because they don't make sense to me. It's not part of what would be classified as usable data. And that's what I worry about. And I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. Keep going, doing what you're doing. And I wish you all the success, but I think if 60% of your team is working the way you're working right now, maybe you should have some other teammates, maybe a small set, maybe an 80-20 split, working with that stuff that is not in the hard data set, but kind of is in the same zone, and see what they get from that. And then you would really be opening yourself up to kind of, quantifying this or putting it into where you can do the testing.
Well, you got to think, I think you're misunderstanding how we operate. We're not all doing what I'm doing.
Right.
We actually have a whole group of people that do nothing but go out and get cryptid reports and try to identify cryptid stuff. They're actually looking at a lot of the stuff that, standard science folks call woo-woo. And, the people, and we also have people that are working, along the UFO side of things, also trying to do the same thing, and they're conducting their own experiments. My job is to just make sure that the experiments don't interfere with each other. That's kind of what I do. It's like
I apologize. Cats. I'm not trying to put my 2 cents into the data or the experimentation. I just found over time that when you leave that world of science where, you have to have, 0, 1, 2, 3, and, you really have to start looking at, I go back to science fairs. And I think maybe some of us have done some of those science where you have a plant or 2 plants. You have a normal plant, you put it in the room, you put sunlight in it, you feed it. Another plant you feed and you talk to it and you talk nice to it. And another plant, you feed it every other day and you talk bad to it. And you do an experimentation, does the plants have emotions? Well, they already found out, if you haven't been seeing the research, plants are sentient beings. Okay, so a couple of professors, if I told them years ago that plants have feelings, they'd say you're crazy. Get out of my classroom and my lab. I would think you were crazy too at one point, but because you'd think of all the people, the tree huggers or whatever. But a lot of what we have in this world, you can even do this with in your own house. You can take ice, put trays of ice in there, and in one of them, talk really nice to it and sing to the tray of ice and the water prior to freezing it. And the other one, you can talk nasty to. I hate you. I don't want to see you. And then if you looked under a microscope, which you can get on Amazon, that would even look at the crystal structure, you're going to see the one that you talk to nicely has a geometric pattern or semantic pattern to it. And then the other one is going to be all discombobulated and look terrible. How would you explain this type of science to the world? There are people studying semantics. Is it the tone? Is there other energy humans are manipulating in the process? I don't know how many people were in the field when you conducted that video and whatever, but did each person send out the same type of thought process, or did some people think, oh, this guy's crazy, I'm just doing it because I need the credit in school or whatever, the internship? So that's what I worry about. It's that we discredit things because it doesn't fit the science, and I don't think science has proven itself, especially lately. So I used to be a science numbers guy and all that stuff, but I don't believe the science. So I'm having a hard time seeing how anybody can quantify this unless they have a physical extraterrestrial or craft or ET or Bigfoot or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think that I got here's where we diverge.
Right.
The thing about it is we're not necessarily trying to make that massive leap, that tends to happen sociologically with people and psychologically as well. We're not trying to make that leap. What we're trying to do is we're trying to let the data collected fall. We're trying to follow that data wherever it goes, and we're not throwing anything out.
Right.
Nothing. We're collecting everything we can get. Everything, whether it's soft data like interviews or reports or what have you, surveys, we're collecting all of that. And then we're also collecting the sensor data around specifically designed experiments. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. The experiment we were running was basically we were looking for interactions at certain places on that battlefield. We didn't anticipate. I'm talking about the interactions. I mean the sensor interactions. We were looking for anomalies on those sensors because we've seen them before, and this is something that's reproducible. We can repeat it, which is necessary for the scientific method. We were able to repeat this stuff over time, and so we're able to prove that when these voices happen or this barrage of gunfire happens, we have these kind of sensor readings, or if something appears in the sky, we have these kind of sensor readings, and then we got to figure out the whole at that point. As part of the scientific method, you go and you design another experiment to try to figure out the next step, and it's a step-by-step process, and it's always evergreen.
Right.
You never come across and say it is this. You never do that, because if you do that, you're going to find yourself in a heap load of trouble.
Yep.
And
you are.
And as more data comes to light, and more data and more evidence comes to light, then the position should change, which is the way it has happened in perpetuity.
Right.
And so that's kind of how that's how we're looking at it. And there may be, the data may actually point us down the road that it's a spiritual event with the host of hosts in the sky, doing something like, letting us know that something's going on or manipulating the earth somehow. And we might go there. I don't know. I have no idea.
Right.
And, and that kind of goes to what that question in the chat is, how do we quantify the interactions of the hard data? Well, the quantifying that happens is basically the hard data is the hard data. Is the hard, when I say hard data, that's the sensor data. That's the camera data. That's the audio data. That's the stuff that I'm talking about, and that's measurable. And so when something is measurable, then it's definitely quantifiable. We can tell how much it changed. We're looking at a change, and we can tell how much it changed. And so at that point, we can quantify that. How much did this change, and when did it change, and
Right.
in correlation to the other things. And that's essentially what we're doing. And we've actually, the fact that we were able to come up with the idea that this might be something related to an Einstein-Rosen bridge happened because we just happened to be, I just happened to be talking to somebody that was a physicist. And it's like, well, the stuff that you're seeing, that's kind of indicative of something like, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. So then I went back and started doing the deep research, did the whole literature search, went back and, talked to my NASA friends, that kind of stuff. And that's where it's like, I'm going to keep collecting this data, and I'm still trying to figure out how to successfully and accurately measure a gravitational change. But because if I can get that, I can guarantee that this thing might actually be an Einstein-Rosen bridge. But I can't measure gravity,
Right.
yet.
You don't have the technology or the money to do that right
now.
now.
So that's what we're trying to figure out. And
my daughter is still working on that for you, by the way.
Do what now?
My daughter is still working on that for you.
Tell your daughter I appreciate her.
Well, it's really interesting. What you can do is, because we don't have that kind of technology, and if it is available actually, but on a government basis, they do maps, the USGS, of gravitational anomalies, magnetic anomalies, and you can actually download those maps. So the only thing I would suggest to you is to go to the USGS and download magnetic anomaly maps of, you can do the entire country, North America, and then specifically go in the area, because they'll give you a series of them over several years you can have access to, and see if there's any changes in the data. And if it's consistent, then you know that there's something going on there, and that's the only way you can kind of really relate to what would, I guess, technically take place. The problem I see here is, and this is the same problem I have with all of this, and it's frustrating for me too, is I love that you're doing and quantifying this stuff and the readings in this on July 29th, 2026, from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. in the morning. Okay? That's great. This is all the data and all the readings. And this is what happened. And this is the object that showed up. And it was over here at 30 degrees or whatever. The problem we have is these events, unless they repeat exactly the same thing for a few days, same time, same location, we're just of individual moments and trying to put them together to come to a conclusion or is going to be very difficult, because you can't replicate the same thing over and over again. That's what science is, trying to replicate the experiment. You can't. You don't have something that I'm aware of, I mean, God bless you if you do, that is the size of whatever the object was in 10,000 feet up in the air that you can put there that's doing what it's supposed to do. So it seems like every moment we get drawn back right to the drawing board, and then there has to be something. I have someone that is, for lack of a better word, they're like a detector. And soon as they start saying, it's happening, and they get this feeling about themselves. They can't explain it. Within 30 seconds, weird things start happening as far as paranormal investigation is concerned. It's almost like they're a sensor, but we can't. The only way you can really analyze that is if you hook them up to an EKG and brain monitors and what's going on in his system, or when this happens. So it's just, I think it's great, but I don't know how you're going to replicate it, or how you're going to create your, if you can create an Einstein-Rosen bridge, that's a lot of money for you right there. If you talk about funding,
Well,
you'd be,
yeah,
it'd be great.
We're not trying to, that's a theory.
Right.
That's a theory. And we just have the data right now. The data is reproducible. The only thing we haven't been able to reproduce right now is that thing in the sky. We've only gone to 3 other sites though, where we could check this out, and we haven't seen it again. So we're not sure what's going on there. We've tested all the cameras, and the cameras are fine. There's no burn spots on them or anything like that. And so, and that thing actually fades, after 10 minutes, fades from view. It fades in, takes it about 30 seconds to fade in, and then it fades back out again. So that right there, we haven't been able to reproduce yet. But in order to do that, just like what I did when I was at Dow Chemical Corporation, we kept beating on it until we finally got enough data to show reproducibility. And that's what we've got to do. We got to do the work. And like Tiffany was talking about, we have to be willing to take the time and do the work. There's no quick answer. There's never going to be a quick answer in this. And so we've got to be able to to do the time and collect all the data. And, and when we talk about experimental design, when you have a theory, you design the experiment, so that you can either prove or disprove the theory. And that right there, though, you can't make that theory or that hypothesis too broad or too far reaching, because if you do, your experiment's doomed to failure. And it's something that in the chemical industry that we determined, of course, scope creep. It would just grow into some gosh awful thing, and then the theory would actually, pardon me, the theory would actually, it's still out there. It's just we never could do anything to prove it or anything like that because it's too big. So you do it a step at a time. It's like eating an elephant. You got to take it one bite at a time. And that's exactly how we're supposed to do this stuff. And coming, and as the many years that I spent as a chemist, that's how we approached everything. Take it a bite at a time. That's all we can do. And eventually, the really cool thing is that you actually find out something that can be useful. And in the chemical field, in the chemical industry, if we found something useful, it made us millions of dollars. So you would find that thing. And but in order to get there, you got to be willing to invest the money to go step by step to get to that point. And it might take you years, that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. I mean, it's just what has to be done. And that's just the way the scientific field works.
Yeah, somebody was asking me one time, they're like, why did you choose to go into this field? Like, why? I go, I've always chosen the hard road in life. I don't know. Like, I always give myself the most difficult tasks to tackle. And if you're going to be in any kind of metaphysics field and scientific field, you're going to have to come to terms with that. It is not an easy road to go down. It takes time, and you're going to have to be willing to sit with that time.
Yep, time and effort.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's being trained scientifically, and I've taken my fair share of chemistry classes and stuff, and it's metaphysically, and when you're doing, just doing remote viewing that I do, I'm blown away. Like, how is this possible? Then you have to do a deep dive on thought and consciousness And, you know, it's kind of hard to explain, but if you don't have the faith and you don't have the believability, you're eliminating a lot of great research out there. I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. Okay, I've never seen God, but I believe in God. Could I be being deceived if it, you know, whatever? Sure. I guess we'll find out as soon as you stop breathing. Out of this field, even as on the scientific side, I know plenty of scientists that are conducting experiments right now. Their professors are, you people are nuts. What are you trying to do? This is pseudoscience, and some of them on the physics end are starting to prove things. But some of the hard scientists don't want to believe it. So that's another obstacle we all face in the subject matter. You know, it goes to peer review, but sometimes you have to have a faith, and a lot of these people do not have the faith. You know, accountants have the faith. 1 + 1 is 2. Debits and credits, you know, but you throw some, like, you know, I don't know, the weighted average cost of capital at these people, and they're like, what are you talking about? They don't believe in any of that stuff. They just believe in left and right of a balance sheet. I think science has to develop, it has to grow. And I think the only way it's going to grow, if we put partially aside the foundation and staples we were taught, like Einstein stuff. I was a huge Einstein fan. And then I really started doing more research into Tesla. And apples and oranges. Tesla was far better, in my opinion, and informative. And what he's come up with, we're all holding it. You know, and the wireless technology, this is the guy that did those experiments, you know, Brad, to figure it out. But unless money can be made on these products and these experiments, like with a chemical company, no one's going to put the time, energy, and effort into it. And I don't think we're ever going to have the answers unless something reveals itself to us purposely.
Well, I have faith that
I think we're going to find it.
Yeah,
you know,
I do too.
I might be dead, but I think, you know, I think we're going to find it. It's because it's the direction we're going. You know, when I first started this, we were collecting this kind of data, and now looking for a very niche thing. And now it's like the path has grown. You know, the path is like gone, and it's grown, and the science has changed around it, and we now have a better idea of what we're looking for. And every once in a while we get surprised, like that thing we saw in that thermal image. But you know, that's all part of it. And I do think that we're gonna, you know, you got to think a theory is a belief. You know, you believe that this is true, so now you run the experiments to try to prove or disprove it. And right. So that's essentially what's going on there, and it's essentially doing what you're saying. And it's just it's trying to do it in a more quantifiable means in regards to hard science. Now, you know, you have like the Division of Perceptual Studies at University of Virginia. You know, those guys are into the psi and the parapsychology side of things. And they're more into what you're talking about, Brian. And they are conducting some really cool experiments at UVA around this kind of stuff. So, you know, those guys, you know, they're neuroscientists and, you know, PhDs in psychology and MDs and stuff. And they're all, you know, doing some yeoman work in that realm. So yeah. We don't have that skill set in ours. Our skill set tends to be more along the lines of physical sciences. So that's why, you know, we're looking at things, you know, we're saying, well, if you can see it and you can feel it and you can smell it, it's measurable. Right. So at that point, that's what we're trying to do. And we think, you know, our theory is, you know, the overarching theory is that, you know, yes, we can, if we can measure it, then we can eventually find out, show causation, not just correlation. And that's the goal. And so that's the direction we're going to go.
No, I think it's great. I mean, the noetic sciences and just the work right now on consciousness, this slit theory, and oh my God, sorry, it's been a long drive from Virginia today, but I think every day there's a group of individuals, including what Brad's team is doing and his group, taking standing up and taking a leap in in directions that most old school scientists would be like, you guys are crazy, and it's wonderful to see. The whole theories, all the theories and the work being done on just consciousness alone is amazing. But something that's interesting, because I can still remember at my University of Massachusetts professor for chemistry, he said, this, it's worth $60,000 a year, which was a lot of money back then. He goes, everything's carbon. That's all he said to me. Everything is carbon. But recently, and I've known about this for a while, and I just would love to hear Brad's, because you're a chemist. What do you feel about the reports that there is life visiting this planet that is not carbon based but silicone based?
It's entirely possible. I mean, that gets more into biochemistry, but the silicon-based life form is entirely possible. It's predicted, actually.
Yep.
So I don't have any evidence of it, but that kind of thing is theoretically possible. That's what I can say, because you got to think organic life forms. They like your chemistry professor said, it's all carbon.
It's all carbon.
And but if you replace those carbon atoms with silicon, you could end up with something very similar. Now you're going to have electron structures that are going to be radically different around those atoms because of, in those molecules, because, the electron orbital theory is going to be all wonky when you start throwing silicon in there instead of carbon, but still it's possible. It's just going to look different.
Yeah, it's I do a show on Thursdays every once in a while, live show. It's one of my friend shows is called Agent X11, and I'm on there with physicist Weepin Yu and Steven Sanchez, who's an NASA. I'm hanging with rocket scientists at this point, and I'm like, thank God I went for almost rocket science. But I proposed a couple of theories to them, and the discussion is these two gentlemen that are working in the sciences are not afraid to take a different leap or step out of that white coat ring and step into their own white coat ring and start doing things. But I would think that your experiments on a different side, if you change the base from carbon to silicone based, then there may be variables present in that would totally be an unknown particle in the carbon based experiments, which is what we're doing right now. And again, we get back to the problem of we don't have a sample to play with on it. So I hope one day, whatever that craft is comes down while you guys are in the field, and you get on board, because I've heard stories from people that have been there, and the drawings they come back with, and the information and the math and the sciences that they're literally almost like automatic writing, but automatic drawing, and they're coming up with. These people don't have the education to get even to a fraction of where they should. And here we go. There it is. I remember element 115 talked about and discussed probably a decade prior to it being actually discovered, and by a gentleman who he had a 5th grade science and math education, and that person's experience said, I've constantly have been abducted. They send this information, give it to me, and then I write it down. So I hope you guys, I mean, like, I don't want you to get abducted, but I hope you do, because it gives you a totally new perspective on life when you're missing time. I've had a couple of experiences missing time. I will not get regressed because I don't want to. But I have numerous people I'm actually very close to that have had multiple abductions and are now allowed to remember portions of their experience, and the stuff they're talking about and the energy fields and the drive systems that they're describing for these craft, unless they have a really one hell of imagination, there's no way they should know this information.
Hey, Tiffany, Heather.
Yes.
I was going to say, do you all want to say something now? Because we've been kind of monopolizing this whole thing.
Sorry, ladies.
You guys are fine. And while you guys have been chatting back and forth, you've answered all of my questions. So I know I don't have any questions to ask, and I haven't seen any come up in the chat that need to be answered. So, anything, Tiffany, on your end?
No.
Okay. The one thing I do have at the end, this is a speed round that I do real quick. So I do have a few quick questions, and I know you guys are going to have completely different answers on this one. Let me see if I can pull it up again real quick.
Maybe.
And you guys are allowed to say pass if you don't want to answer it. So I won't make you lightning round. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Roswell, crash or myth?
Crash.
Don't know.
Don't know. Area 51, overhyped or significant?
Initially significant, now overhyped.
Hey, wait a minute. Write this down. I agree with Brian.
I'm not, it's not like we want to, I don't want to disagree. I wish Brad all the success, but my mind has moved into a variety of other areas. Mm-hmm. And it's really weird. It's almost liberating when you stop thinking certain things. But go ahead. Mm-hmm. Next question.
The best UFO documentary that you've seen?
Documentary?
Yep.
Are you talking about actually proof that aliens exist, or
any documentary that talks about it?
I'm going to say Close Encounters of the Third Kind, followed by The Fourth Kind, which is an abduction documentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, the documentary, there was one on the History Channel that I thought I was fascinated with, and can't remember the name of it, and I apologize. I watched so much history stuff that just kind of snuck in there. I was like, "Ooh, look at this!" So.
What is the biggest misconception about UFO, UAPs, and alien research?
That's interesting.
The biggest misconception in the public?
Yeah. Yep.
By the public, I mean, that it is all woo-woo crazy stuff. That's a misconception, because you don't know that. You don't know 100% any of it. You can believe stuff, you can theorize about stuff, but the only way, that's just my opinion.
So, yeah, I agree with Brad on that portion of it, but there's also another component, the people that are really dug in into trenches and within the UFO community, the misconception that they think there's a galactic federation and there's a table of multiple different extraterrestrials, and they're going to save humanity because we're really special. But they can't figure out if they want Chinese food or pizza. I don't think there is a galactic federation. I have no proof that it exists. And I think it's a human construct because, frankly, humans are very arrogant and think they're that important. And I don't know if we are that important in the universe.
We're cannon fodder.
Yeah, pretty much. Or food.
And then one last question is, yes or no, do you think if aliens made their presence known, would it change civilization as we know it today?
Yes.
100% yes.
Okay. So I'm all good on my end. Anything last minute, Tiffany?
No.
Nope. Okay. Why don't you guys take a moment we'll start with Brian since Brad has himself on mute for a quick cough. Tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll make sure that we also get that information up on our Facebook page.
No problem. I'll send you my biography. You can find me. I do a lot of interviews, and I've done some TV shows. It's not a pat in the back, and you're not getting rich doing it. But I do have my own show on YouTube @ Brian Bowden, the same way I spell my name. I do a show Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. Eastern, usually to 10 p.m. Eastern, called Third Eye Live. It's how your consciousness, your third eye, intuition, or God's intervention has led you down a path. It's not necessarily paranormal. And then on Monday nights, I started a new show called Open Your Mind from 9 to 10 p.m. on my YouTube channel. And I'm teaching remote viewing and how people can meditate, raise their vibration, and use the God-given gifts of all the extrasensory perceptions, as you would call it, to better their lives and rise above the cannon fodder and narratives.
And Brad, I know we've shared your information before, but if you don't mind repeating it, and then just in case anyone who hasn't seen you before on our show.
All right. You can find the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation at centerpri.org on the web. And you can also find the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation on Facebook. And we don't have our own shows. We spend too much time, on doing a lot of this data collection and analysis, but we are going to be featured on 2 episodes of Weird World Adventures on Amazon Prime, season 3. So when it comes out, you'll be able to see us on 2 of those. And also we're featured on, we appear on a lot of podcasts and such, just like what we're appearing, helping you guys with now. And I don't want to apologize to everybody because where they're doing construction next door to us, there's a lot of, I'm allergic to short needle pines, and there were a lot of those over there, and they are mulching them up.
Oh.
So I apologize.
No, you're okay.
Occasionally I had to go on mute. But yeah, you can find us there, and you can also find if you want to just send a note to science@centerpri.org, feel free, and I won't ignore your emails like I do Tiffany's. I mean, sorry. But yeah, that's how you can find us.
Okay, and we'll make sure all of that, once I get our Facebook page updated, like I mentioned last week, be patient with me. I'm still working on getting caught up on messages, comments, and all of the uploading of our episodes. So we will have that hopefully done here soon. Make sure you guys follow us on Facebook at Ghost Education 101. We air live there. I also do various engagement type of comments and graphics. And I know Brad and a lot of members from CPRI have put their input in on the scientific side of a lot of things that we've been questioning. So make sure you check that out and get some information from what is going on and getting that side of view. And then you can also follow us on YouTube where the replay will be posted. And then next week we have Henry Lee. He is the owner of the Gilchrist Jail in Florida. Him and several others from his organization will be joining us for another panel discussion next week. I do know when I talked to him a couple weeks ago, he has this amazing new thing that they're doing at the jail that is going to be making it accessible for people to remotely view anything going on within the jail 24/7. So they're kind of doing like those webcams that you have at the zoos. So that's going to be really interesting to hear what they're doing there. But again, thank you, Brian and Brad, for joining us tonight. We look forward to talking to you guys again in the future, and we will see everyone next week. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you for having us.